Hey, hi, hello, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and it is time for a great album segment where I go over a bunch of releases that I really loved, really enjoyed, that dropped over the past month plus of time, and yes, recommend them to you. Make sure that they are not slipping through the cracks on you. Just a little reminder of what is out and what is good before we head into more reviews. So without any further ado, let's do it. Boom. First one, Thundercat. New record from him, first in a while, Distracted, and in my opinion, the best thing he has come out with in years. Yes, it does live up to the title. It is a little all over the place. There are some kind of funny mea culpas and pieces of meta commentary where he talks about, his own personal lack of focus, not just artistically, but in his own personal life, in his romantic life too. But some of the best production and songwriting to land on any Thundercat record thus far is on this record. Amazing Mac Miller feature as well, a little bit of an appearance from the Lemon Twigs as well, which adds a lot to the record too. And of course, on top of all of that, incredible bass playing that we have come to expect from Thundercat every single time. Again, it's not the most consistent album of the year, but I think one of the better ones for sure. We have the new Jessie Ware, Superbloom record, an album a lot of people are saying is kind of like the ending or the third installment of the disco trilogy that she has been on as of late. I am liking that it feels a little less streamlined and segmented and super punchily, cleanly produced like her last album was, bringing back some of the electro and boogie vibes of What's Your Pleasure, with some songs in the mix that take on more of a soul direction, which I think is pretty nice and kind of comes back around to some of her original influences earlier on in her career, and I think displays a little bit more of her vocal chops, frankly. Some beautiful tunes, beautiful production all around, and really liking this one a lot. If you enjoyed What's Your Pleasure, I think for the most part, there's a lot of reason to get quite a bit out of this new album too. Liking also the new Lemon Twigs album. They have been on a run as of late, in my opinion, too. Look for Your Mind. Once again, the Lemon Twigs are still kind of, looking back in a very nostalgic way to the 60s, to the 70s, giving you pieces of sunshine pop and psychedelic pop, garage rock, and everything in between on a series of songs that are some of their catchiest to date. Yes, they do tend to wear their influences on their sleeve, but I don't think anybody else is kind of like, reliving the 60s quite as well as the Lemon Twigs are, especially as they continue to get better and better and better when it comes to the production side of things. The accuracy of the way that they kind of like embody these sounds is amazing. And again, I feel like this record wouldn't be anywhere as near as good as it is if it wasn't for the songs at the core of all of these tracks being as good and as snappy as they are. The thing about these songs is, while that sort of nostalgic window dressing is cool and it's fun and it gives the Lemon Twigs a distinct style, I think you could wrap these songs in a lot of different types of production, a lot of different, modes of popular music, and they would still go. They would still sound good. They would still snap because the choruses are great. The lyrics are entertaining and funny. The vocal leads are really sharp and memorable. So yeah, the Lemon Twigs doing it once again on this new record. I might prefer their previous two albums to this one just a little bit, but I still think this is a great record for sure. All right, we have Genesis Owusu, who is also on a bit of a run over here. This is his third album, and once again, he has knocked it out of the park. Redstar, Woo, and the Worldwide Scourge. This album has, of course, been doing some cool numbers down in Australia, where Genesis is from. He is beloved down there and beloved across various underground rock scenes the globe over. And, this album is continued proof as to why that is. Not only is he an exciting and compelling vocalist with a lot to say, especially on this album, because there is a lot of social commentary, hard-hitting, and sometimes even heartbreaking and depressing social commentary on this record, but the way that he continues to fuse elements of funk and soul and hip-hop and rock and new wave and everything in between, it's a really incredible record, again, with a lot of substance to it, a lot to say, some hard-hitting tracks, and you know, I would say at the end of all of the darkness the record has to dish out, a bit of a ray of light kind of coming down through all of it, a very positive message to kind of cap the whole thing off. But yes, once again, Genesis killing it with a new record. Not surprised. We have a new one from Critic over here, which I have been enjoying. If you are at all into, you know, kind of this new vanguard of weirdo, electro, experimental, digital, hardcore, rock, whatever the hell you want to frame it as, I think Critic is one of the most interesting bands out there today. Difficult to pigeonhole, but I think easy to understand if you are looking for something that is visceral, punchy, in your face, instantaneously exciting, and will get your body moving. It sounds like all the ugliness and all the chaos of the internet just sort of like, you know, packed into a little bubble and just shaking up really aggressive, just shake it up, and you know, then puked out violently in a very entertaining way. So shout out to Critic for this Theft World album. Quite good, quite good. All right, moving on to a couple of like little shorter projects, little EPs, stuff like that to turn you guys onto. This Party Trick EP from Assembly is definitely one of the most exciting and abrasive, you know, blitzkriegs of noise rock I've heard in a minute, with some mathy grooves here and there in the mix as well. Just some very harsh, exciting performances, a lot of energy, a lot of kinetic energy just kind of blasting out in all directions on this one, and it's a fun one for sure. Also want to give a shout out to the fourth season, the fourth installment of this kind of Miami Lice, you know, Lice series between Aesop Rock and Homeboy Sandman. Between the both of them, again, they have done 4 iterations of this kind of Lice duo project series, and every time they do it, it seemingly gets better and better. The you know, EP series just continues to prove their kind of mutual respect and how well their sort of like respective artistries and lyrical styles like match up and sync up so well. Of course, the production is quirky and great, as is to be expected for, you know, anything connected to Aesop Rock these days. But really cool to hear these guys together once again on another EP's worth of tracks. And it's a beefy EP too. It's not just like, you know, 3 songs and kind of sayonara. It's like, you know, we're getting close to like album length. I think at one point they could even probably like, you know, reissue all these projects as like a box set or something like that, which would be pretty cool for all of the people who have been hardcore fans of this series. But season 4 of Lice, Aesop Rock, and Homeboy Sandman. There you go. And finally, last one I want to shout out is Little Simz with this Sugar Girl EP. Little Simz historically has a habit of dropping these miniature projects in between bigger albums, bigger releases, and this one is no less interesting in my opinion, despite the fact that I haven't really heard a whole lot of buzz from hardcore fans about this one, who typically would come out of the woodwork for a full-length Little Simz album. Now, on the surface, I do kind of get it. I do kind of understand. To keep in mind, though, every Little Simz EP or smaller kind of like mid-release project does usually take on a different style, a different sound, does sort of see Simz exploring things in a different direction that maybe would be a little bit too high stakes for a full-length album or a concept album. And this Sugar Girl EP sees Simz flirting with more pop-centric and commercial sounds. There's even a really cool JT feature at one point on the EP. Again, I could understand how for hardcore fans who like, you know, the more conscious material and stuff like that, how this wouldn't necessarily be what they're looking for, what kind of they're seeking from Simz artistically, but I do genuinely think some of the songs on this thing are pretty good. By that metric, I would also say I could see why there are some like pop rap fans who might come across this and not know quite what to make of it because they're not all that familiar with Simz's music and Simz's sound, because they're not really kind of, tuned into a lot of the more conscious records that she has dropped over the years. So unfortunately, as hard hitting and as popping as some of the tracks on this EP are, I sort of fear that this project will fall on deaf ears, even if there is like some good quality, enjoyable material on it, because I think a lot of people, sadly these days, tend to sort of like stick to the artists that they know and want a lot of predictability from the artists that they enjoy the most, and not just merely in terms of like, the genres that they typically inhabit, but more like, the intended audience appeal for that certain work or that certain song, regardless of what genre Simz is toying with. I think most people sort of like expect or hope for her music to appeal in kind of like a conscious or conceptual way, and that's just not the case for Sugar Girl. She's taking it easy, she's being direct, she's keeping it catchy, she's keeping it light for the most part, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the songs themselves like are still well structured, and clearly a lot of focus and effort went into them, and there's some catchy bars across these tracks too, and some bumping beats. I think it's a neat little sort of detour for Simz to take, honestly, even if I don't see quite as much buzz for it as I think there should be. But that's going to be it. Great albums, great projects. Those are the ones that stuck out to me. Reviews and other information linked below in the D box. That is pretty much it. You guys are the best. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, great albums forever.